And the topic is my personal favorite topic, social media ethics navigating the Wild West. To moderate this discussion, I would like to have Mr. Sunny Vaghela, founder and CEO from TechDefense Lab, and our esteemed panelist, Anurag Chandra, CISO, Indian Government Agency, Khushbu Jain, Managing Partner, ARC Legal, Satish Kumar Dwibhashi, CISO from KreditBee, Mr. Deepak Kalambkar, Senior Manager ITG Vertical from AQM Technologies. Over to you, Mr. Sunny Vaghela. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess Mr. Deepak wanted to, come in. I mean, I can just see the chat. Just let him in.
Sure. I think he has got the access now. Sir, are you able
Sure.
to?
Sure.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. And as this is a last discussion, I'm sure everybody wanted to be very interactive, very interesting, so that, we wind up the whole conference with a very good note. And because it's a topic of interest of our host also, would like to make it more interactive. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the panel discussion on the social media ethics, navigating the Wild West. My name is Sunny Vaghela, and I'll be the moderator for today. As we know that we are entered into a digital era where social media has become an integral part of our lives, influencing how we communicate on the internet, share the information with each other, or rather form our opinion, to buy anything, to vote for anyone, or anything in the life that we do. However, while this rapid evolution is going on, we face numerous ethical challenges that requires a careful navigation. Today, we are fortunate to have a distinguished panel experts from the government, from the legal background, and even from the corporate background, and the CISOs also, who are having a deep knowledge, or the whole panel has a deep knowledge on the cybersecurity to help us explore these critical issues. So, in this discussion, we're going to cover various aspects with respect to the privacy, or the user privacy, the data security, the content moderations, misinformation, the impact of a social media on the mental health, and the role of a regulations and the government in this particular panel discussion. We'll try to shed light on how we can create more ethical and a more secure social media landscape. So I encourage every of my panelists to engage in the discussion. We'll make it more general, we'll make it more open, and whatever questions from the audience you may have, we will have a small Q&A session at the end to address this particular questions as well. So thank you all for being here, and let's begin with our first question. So my first question to all the panelists: while we are using the social media, as we must be knowing, on an average, we spend around 6 to 7 hours on social media, either crawling the reels, looking at some, other people's stories or the post, or so even our behavior, or rather, our opinions, does matters on what people have been doing. And that actually influence us to do a lot of things in our own life. So given all your background, from a very versatile background of experts that we have, I wanted to understand, how do you define an ethical behavior on social media, and how it should be enforced across these different platforms? So I would appreciate any of my panelists to just unmute and start answering this question.
So very good afternoon to one and all. Thanks a lot, Sunny. You have really introduced it very well, and I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes.
Yes. So taking this audacity of taking it first forward, I really believe that we've been talking a lot about social media, and I want to go with a small punchline, which we have been always hearing from all over the sources, that man is a social animal. So what is that social? The social wants to make friends. He wants to be in the community. He wants to be recognized. He wants to have that food, water recognition, and authority to, deal with the life. And that's where the time started up, where the Facebooks, Twitters, and various other engaging platforms started coming in. And the only one aim for all those platforms were to give everyone a voice. When we call it everyone a voice, that means you connect with your friends, you go along with join like-minded people in the communities, talk, share, and care for each other, and be sympathetical on that point in time. And also, this also leveraged further by enabling the SMBs to reach to their customer sizes. This particular thing is definitely dwelling upon only one point, that maximizing the engagements. But the moment the maximizing the engagement we started talking about, we all started talking about only one thing, that this engagement is going in a very, very different way, in a very, very tangent way. It is not going to stop anywhere, and it is going to be like somebody in the previous panel said, the data is the bloodstream, it is getting flown into each and every system altogether. And we started behaving very, very serious on this aspects of the ethical part of the scenario, where we started talking about the addiction, disinformation, misinformation, mental health, polarization, then the censorship versus the speech which is going to be shared and which is going to be posted in the times to come. I mean, this all started giving us a very, very big questionable statement in the terms of the social dilemma, that how we deal with this all. So I'm sure that this question is not only in my mind, this question is in everybody's mind, that how do I first and foremost combat this misinformation with the kind of a thing which is going and floating around all over the countryside, and which can be having a very, very dangerous and can have a very, very disastrous outlook towards a person, community, society, and industry altogether, or eventually it can be a national hazard. To stop here and to start more dwelling onto the ethical part, I mean, unless and until somebody wants to talk about the basic introduction part, otherwise I would like to cover up onto the ethics part, that we need to have some kind of a there is definitely going to be a blurring between the private and the social norms, because earlier it used to be like when we used to start with Doordarshan, when we used to start with the Hum Log serial, and way back in the times to come, that was the time when we used to be one-way communication. Very impressive how the world is moving around. Today, you just don't have to think about the world is moving around in which direction. You just have to just having a ICD, that is interconnected devices, onto the internet, and just ping it whatever you want to, and it is just shooting on the click of the mouse and you are there. There's no kind of a moderation. There's nothing, no checking agency, though the community is being looked after by the platform moderation's availability, but it is on a knee-jerk reaction. In case there's any kind of a case or any kind of a case-specific things that started coming up, they would be getting into the audacities of getting the legal framework of it, that how we can do it. But what exactly is the source of verification? How many of us do really trust onto the trust indicators? Do we really think on those ethical embargoes? Do we really find out a way to find out what is the source of information? How do we identify the biases in the communication which is going to take place? Do we really have any kind of access credibility which can be notified and can be seen? Do we have any kind of implementation of the trust indicators? What are the high sources of the reputable sources which I should be depending on? Like the earlier industry best practices, people said that the reports from the Gartner are authenticated and everything. Giving an example, right? So this kind of a maximizing of the engagement has revolved around the rules of engagement, where we are trying to rewrite the rules of every aspect of our society, which unfortunately had gone ambiguous, and the rules of engagement has not been dwelt upon in terms of the children identity, in terms of the politics, in terms of the elections, reaching to the customers, any kind of a national security, societal norms and the values, or the media journalism. So I hand over the stage now to go forward with this kind of a ethical dilemma which we are going to face upon. And definitely we will surely come upon with various other solutions too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Anurag, for telling us about what are the different challenges that we are actually facing, specifically with respect to data privacy and data security. I have a question to Mr. Satish Kumar. The most important data, that's the fintech or financial data, right? And most of this social media have got platform or an integrations with the financial ecosystem. Now, when this financial ecosystem or a financial or a transaction data comes into a place, I wanted to understand from you with your, the vast experience, how does a company handle this user data or a financial data ethically taken from the social media, and especially, given the financial information which is involved in all which includes their PII, the transaction data, and all of that on a social media. So what are the measures that one should be taking over social media as a user, and as a company, what measures are to be taken to make sure that we handle this information very carefully coming out from a social media?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. And so, as you said rightly, see, today financial data is the most critical data, and see, predominantly fintechs, and I come from an NBFC background, and there's a lot of regulations today, and I'm sure each one of us are aware of the way RBI has laid down a lot of guidelines and a lot of, in fact, directions to ensure that how do we deal with this kind of data. So the two parts of it. One is, of course, internally, whatever data, customer data, what we collect definitely has to be, in fact, safeguarded with all the required measures, including how we store, how we process, and in the sense, in the context of most of the payment organizations, if you look at, so they use quite a bit of encryption, including HSMs. How do we ensure that the whole the key management is robustly managed, maintained? So the two sides. One is, of course, because the biggest thing is compliance. I'm sure NBFCs, fintech cannot stay without the compliance, without following all the norms laid down by various bodies. It's not just only regulatory body alone. Of course, the law of the land and many other what are laid down principles. And second most important thing, finally, today we are living in a world where the digital trust is very important for a consumer, right? So in that context, today, it also ties back to the reputation, and because whatever, I think you touched upon two areas. One is, of course, internal data, what customer data, but again, second, social media. There also the data, whatever has been collected, has to be used responsibly and ensure that we don't, of course, violate any of those regulations and norms, because predominantly today, customer trust and digital trust are the two key important pillars on which most of the organizations are built upon. And today, it's very expensive to, in fact, to distrust or violate any of these principles, basically. So while there's a lot of efforts right from the design stage, in fact, applications are built very natively, ensuring that these principles are absolutely embedded to the systems what we build. Because today, it's not just we're a tech company, right? It's also we're a regulated NBFC, and in that context, today, regulatory measures has to be taken care at the design stage itself, and ensure that the overall value chain, we ensure that there's a lot of privacy built into the whole system. So it's no more just a technology, but ensuring that we built all this trust principles into the base foundation systems.
If you look at Mr. Satish, there are a couple of the fake loan applications have been surfaced, and all of these fake loan applications for the companies, or there are fake NBFCs which have been surfaced. They predominantly, penetrated the customer base or the data which they have either gathered it through a third party where the existing NBFCs are working upon, or either run a lot of campaigns, on the social media. So wanted to understand from the NBFC background. I would like to continue with you to understand, now what kind of a technology that you use, or the precautions that you take, or the preventive measures that you take, when you are able to find out that there is a data that has been misused, given to some third parties, or there are certain, those fake applications or the loan applications or certain ads which are being run on the social media in the name of certain of the famous companies.
I agree. So that's one of the major nuances anyway. So one is two sides. One is a lot of fake apps surfacing onto the Google Play Store or whatever. So continuously, of course, regulatory bodies and governments and law enforcement agencies constantly keep looking for those, and they take down them. But equally, as a company, of course, if you're talking of replicas or talking of those kind of in fact, applications which get surfaced, we have a continuous monitoring team. There's a risk and fraud team which constantly ensures that these applications, because finally it's all about the reputation of the brand. So there's a dedicated team, of course, and there are third parties also engaged basically to ensure that these kind of fake apps or even fake websites, and sometimes even the partners also, right? There will be a lot of partners who may be using our logo or brand, in fact, impersonating and probably once the customer gets in it, they may be sending that data to some other, as you said rightly, a fake app. So I know it's a constant struggle. So we have to continuously monitor, of course, and ensure that these fake apps or these are taken down, or whoever are impersonating in this kind of a name. So I know it's a big menace, but it has to be tackled continuously, and there's a team, in fact, who is constantly working on it, and there are third parties also engaged to take down these kind of, whether apps or even websites or even partner ecosystem, so that you ensure that there's a lot of trust given back to the customers.
Absolutely. So I have a, the moving forward the question to Mr. Deepak, right? I wanted to, you to shed some more light on what practices that companies should follow, or what steps do you recommend, for the users or for the social media platforms to ensure that there's an ethical handling of a user data collected from a social media, available on a social media, and what are the, the best practices in order to protect the user data from these cyber threats, while we maintain the transparency and trust among the users or the data collected from the social media.
Yeah, hi. This is Dr. Deepak Kalambkar. First of all, good afternoon to all. See, question is, as a virtual CISO, protecting customers' data is more important. And the other side, you can say that we don't sit at the customer place. We are only monitoring all the data, user data, through virtual things only. We get virtual Teams connections because we don't get direct access to their servers, and we also don't know where exactly the data is placed. Depending upon the customer's suggestions and the customer's pursue, we see where the data is. But as per me, when anything is put on a social media platform, we first have to see the privacy of the user data, like how it is moving. We have to put on all the policies related to cybersecurity and data security in place. We have to take customer concerns whenever we put any critical customer data on any personal, any website, which is a public website. Also, we can say that we have to regularly conduct data audits. We have to data analysis and see what all data is lying on the public sites. If it is not required, we can remove it regularly after doing the audits. So these are my concerns when we get to user data.
Great, sir. I have a questions from the legal perspective, right? Because we as a consulting company, when we are doing any sort of an OSINT for a specific organizations, we encountered many of the cases, or rather almost in all the cases, some or the other way, the data of either the users, the credentials, are not only available on a dark web, but they are also available on some of the private channels, some of the private groups over a social media. And this is a matter of the serious matter of a concern, where the organization does not know their confidential data is already available on a social media. So wanted to understand from Khushbu, what are the legal protections in India regarding the user data that is available on social media or the company's confidential